This is part 14 of a story. Please make sure to go back and listen to the previous parts so that you don't miss any of the details. I'm here. Have you ever cheated? No. Okay, maybe when I was 16 and my boyfriend did something I didn't like, and I slept with my best friend's brother. He was older than me and super hot, but that's beside the point. It was just a one-time thing, and he even let me tell my boyfriend about it, so we could all three be together. But have you ever been cheated on? Yes. And that was terrible. My ex-husband James cheated on me for 6 months with a coworker. I only found out when his sister sent me text messages on her phone, after she found out he was having an affair. According to her, he was bragging about how he was sleeping with someone else. She took his phone without him noticing and got into his iCloud account on her laptop. She read his emails and also found photos of him with this other woman. He had hidden these photos really well, used an online storage service, but once there are shadows on the wall, you can't ignore them anymore. Even though they were married, he called his sister a busybody and told her not to dig into his private life again. She argued with him, but when she hung up I saw her crying, so I asked her what was wrong and she told me everything. She said, "You deserve better than your brother," and she went back to arguing with him. And then he came out of their house looking for her. When she heard him coming, she shut down the laptop and hid the phone under a pillow on the sofa. He sat down next to her and started talking in low tones, trying to soothe her somehow. After a while, she went back to her room, but he stayed on the sofa for a good hour, smoking like a chimney. I think he was waiting for me to leave. I went back inside. I asked him why he was still sitting there. He looked at me as if I'd been rude to him. "What do you mean? Why am I still sitting here?" "Well, because you're a coward, and you quint. Look me in the eyes after what you've done." He stood up, grabbed his keys, and left the house. I knew where he was going, and I drove there right after him. I wanted to confront him, but he ran away from me every time. When I tried to grab him, he slapped me. That was the last straw. I left him and moved back in with my parents. They helped me get a divorce and buy a new apartment nearby. Everything was fine until I met Thomas. Thomas was James's best friend since childhood. We became friends through James, but after the divorce, he was the only person I could talk to. One day I was just so depressed I thought I couldn't take it anymore. I wanted to end my life. I called Thomas and told him that. I went to my balcony intending to jump, but he got there first and stopped me. I think he saved my life. He talked to me for hours and convinced me to live. Afterward, he drove me to a hospital, but I refused to admit myself. Still, he insisted I shouldn't be alone, so he stayed with me. My parents didn't know about us. They just knew Thomas as a friend of their daughter's ex-husband. So I was afraid they would be disappointed in me if they found out about our relationship. But on top of that, I didn't want to hurt Thomas by denying my feelings. I liked him, but I wasn't sure if it was just infatuation due to trauma bonding. Thomas, however, was very patient with me. He gave me time and space, and always made sure I was okay. In turn, I treated him like a hero. I made him delicious meals, sexy lingerie, and gave him massages whenever he wanted. He was the most attentive and caring man I'd ever known. Still, I wasn't ready to have a relationship with anyone, no matter how much I liked Thomas. I was too afraid to trust him. So instead of telling him the truth, I lied and said I wasn't attracted to men. Of course, that wasn't true. I loved Thomas, but I was too afraid to admit it. I was afraid he would push me too hard and force me to sleep with him before I was ready. For months, I tormented him with mixed signals. Sometimes I would wear lingerie to please him, but then I would say, "Not tonight," when he tried to touch me. Other times I would kiss him passionately, but I would never let him go further than that. My intention was to break his heart so I could run away from my feelings for him. But the more time passed, the more my conscience bothered me. I felt guilty, but I was too proud to admit my mistake and tell him the truth. No. Then came the fateful night. I was on the phone with my mother and I told her how wonderful Thomas was. She picked up on how I really felt, and she told me I shouldn't keep hurting Thomas. He loves you and deserves to be happy. Don't forget that you're not doing him any favors by stringing him along like this. She was right, but I was too scared. My whole body trembled when I hung up. Then Thomas came out of his room and asked me who I'd been talking to. I forced a smile and said, "No one, just work. Is everything okay? You seem upset?" Yes, I'm fine. Everything's fine." He walked away and I collapsed onto the sofa. What had I done? Had my mother been right? Was I doing something wrong? I was so lost in thought that I didn't hear him enter the kitchen. Suddenly, he was standing in front of me holding 2 glasses of wine. "Do you want one?" Sure." Yeah, I drank mine in one gulp. "That was strong stuff," I said with a grimace. "Can I get you another one?" "Sure." I closed my eyes. Maybe I could tell him the truth. But before I could, he touched my shoulder. "Why are you being so kind to me? I know I haven't been the best boyfriend in the world, but if you want to be honest, I won't force you to stay with me." "Oh, Thomas, I opened my mouth to speak, but he leaned closer to me and kissed me. I froze. Was this the moment? Was he going to make love to me? Did he want to force me to sleep with him? Suddenly, he pulled away and asked, "Do you love me?" "Yes." "Do you want to be with me?" "Yes." He smiled and kissed me again. This time, I didn't freeze. I melted into his arms. I couldn't believe I'd finally found a man who loved me so much despite my constant rejection. I loved him too, and I realized that my whole marriage to James had been a mistake. I hadn't loved him, not really. I'd been infatuated with him in high school, but I don't think I'd have married him if my parents hadn't pressured me. Of course, Thomas was different. I'd actually fallen in love with him. But I didn't tell him that I hadn't been a virgin when I married James. I didn't want to lose him. I chose to hide that part of my past. I chose to lie and say I'd never slept with another man. Thomas believed me, but he was shy around the topic of sex. He was so considerate that it irritated me. Whenever we kissed, he asked me if I was sure I wanted to go further, if I was sure I wanted to do that now. I missed the old passionate Thomas who didn't care about anything but pleasing me. Or maybe that was just my trauma bonding, making me miss the bad things about my ex. Anyway, I was sure I wanted to be with Thomas forever. I couldn't help wondering what it would have been like if I'd have been honest with him. Would we still be together? Does honesty matter anyway? And why was I so drawn to dangerous men like James and my meditation coach? Click here to continue the story.